This morning, the royal couple out and about in Sydney meeting community leaders ahead of a barbecue in Parramatta. Then the King and Queen to take centre stage at the Sydney Opera House. 7 News will have complete live coverage of the day. Also this morning, the fallout from Lydia Thorpe's shout-out during the parliamentary reception for the royal couple. And could this be the end of international arrival cards? A trial is underway at Brisbane Airport.
This is 7 News with Ann Sanders.
Good morning. The King and Queen are back in Sydney today, ready to meet the people. The royal couple will shortly be heading to a barbecue at Parramatta in the city's west, before making an appearance at the Sydney Opera House. We have reporters at all of today's royal hotspots as part of our complete live coverage of the final full day of the King and Queen's visit to Australia. One of the highlights of today is that meet and greet at the Sydney Opera House. That's where we find Taylor Aiken. Taylor, good morning. This is going to be a huge event this afternoon with echoes from the past.
It certainly will, and there's still 4.5 hours before the King and Queen are expected to come down here to the Sydney Opera House, but already there is a long queue forming, people ready to try and claim their spot to get their moment with the King and Queen. Now, that meet and greet is expected to run for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and the King and Queen will be alongside the New South Wales Premier and his wife. The last time the Sovereign met crowds was here at the Sydney Opera House and was done by the late Queen Elizabeth II in 2006. We are expecting huge crowds similar to those seen when Prince Charles at the time was joined by his wife here at the Sydney Opera House. The Queen, Camilla and King Charles will today pose for official photographs in front of the stunning Sydney Harbour Bridge on what is a stunning Sydney day. Then it will be a fleet review of the Navy, and that's because King Charles is the Colonel-in-Chief of the Royal Australian Army Corps. The vessels will travel in front of the Sydney Opera House. Those vessels including HMAS Arunta, HMAS Gascoyne, Hobart, Warramunga and Yarra. The King and Queen will be accompanied by the Governor-General of Australia, Sam Mostyn, along with the Chief of Navy and the Chief of the Defence Force. And during that fleet review, the Navy, the Army and the Air Force will conduct a fly-past with more than 600 officers expected to conduct a cheer ship salute. So plenty to happen here this afternoon. The crowds are ready, they're being patient, but they're in for quite a show. Anne?
Looks like it's going to be a stunning day there. Taylor Aiken live at the Sydney Opera House. Thanks a lot, Taylor. Annie Pullar is in Parramatta for another of today's big ticket events, a community barbecue. Hi there, Annie. This will be a great opportunity to meet the royal couple for those invited achievers and community leaders.
Yeah, and the royal couple will be getting a true taste of the Aussie spirit here in Parramatta today. It's being billed as the Great Australian Backyard Barbecue with all the bells and whistles. I want to bring in now Chop and Ben. They probably have the most important role of the day on the sausage sizzle stand. 100%. How are we feeling, Chop?
A bit nervous, but confident as well. My sausage skills are amazing.
Well, what goes into perfecting the perfect royal snag here?
Just making sure you get a nice colour around it, get a nice char, and make sure it's up to temp.
Fair bit of pressure from you today.
100%, I'm shaking in my boots at the moment.
Have we got a variety of snags?
Yeah, we've got the beef snag here, we've got some lamb sausages as well, and some pork ones.
Perfect. And Ben, do we know if the King will be indulging in any of these snags today?
I'm hoping he's going to taste some good Aussie beef here today. We're showcasing in some amazing barbecues here with some great skills from Chop and myself. So yeah, hoping he really tries some of our Aussie product.
Perfect. We'll be back to visit you guys later, and we'll just take a little whip around here. You can see an incredibly colourful event. We're expecting more than 700 community leaders to take part. A very impressive roll call of Sydney's identity. Look what we have here, a little bit of an environmental setup. The King is expected to pay a visit here. Girls, can I ask, what are you doing here today?
I'm gonna be performing for the King, and I just made like a crown.
Wow. And are you going to put that crown on, or are you going to put it on the King's head?
I would say the king's head.
And what about you? Are you excited to see the king and queen today?
Yes, I'm very excited. Especially my friend over there is the most excited about it. So I would be performing for the king for my culture, Vietnam, and I'll be dancing with a hat, and the seniors will be dancing with a fan.
Plenty of young children in the crowd, and I'll take you over here. You can see some SES volunteers, and this event is really about shining a light on what Western Sydney does best. Boys, I can see you've already helped yourself to a snag. How are you feeling?
Good, really good, and I'm very excited for the king to come, and my brother is gonna be so amazed from this.
Why are you so excited to see the king today?
Because my brother has always dreamed of meeting the king, and I'm going to tell him everything about him.
Plenty of memorable moments to come, and we'll bring you all the latest as the guests start to arrive in about half an hour or so.
Isn't it wonderful to see the kids so enthusiastic? Annie Pullar live in Parramatta. Have a great day there, Annie. Thank you very much. Senator Lydia Thorpe's royal protest at yesterday's parliamentary reception has been met with calls for her to resign. Live to our political reporter Isabel Mullen in Canberra. Izzy, there's frustration on both sides of politics this morning.
There really is, Anne. Good morning. Politicians are unanimous in their disgust. Peter Dutton, the opposition leader, the latest politician to call for Lydia Thorpe's resignation. Others have labelled this outburst rude and un-Australian. The independent senator screaming at King Charles and Queen Camilla as they sat there in the Great Hall yesterday. She's also been criticised on social media for this post depicting a beheaded King Charles with the caption, "You are not our king." That post has since been deleted, and Lydia Thorpe has claimed that she never uploaded it, but she has stood by her outburst.
This is not your land! This is not your land! You are not my king! You are not our king! I did it for truth-telling, global truth-telling about the royals who caused so much devastation.
Peter Dutton is the latest politician to call for her resignation. Let's hear now from the opposition leader.
I think there's a very strong argument for somebody who doesn't believe in the system but's willing to take $250,000 a year from the system to resign in principle.
The outburst did very little to faze their majesties, who simply smiled at one another, had a bit of a chuckle and had a chat to the Prime Minister and his partner Jodie Hayden there in the Great Hall before they met with school children who were waiting outside. So all in all, a very successful day here in the capital.
Yes, they were otherwise very warmly greeted. Isabel Mullen in Canberra. Thanks, Izzy. The King and Queen have taken time out of their busy schedule to praise the generosity of Australians after millions of dollars were raised in this year's Channel 7 telethon in Perth. Tina Altieri reports.
An unexpected royal nod from His Majesty the King after Western Australia's marathon 26-hour live TV fundraiser. In a lengthy statement, he said, "I can't promise that we watched all 26 hours, but he acknowledged the $688 million raised over 57 years of this WA institution that supports and changes the lives of sick and vulnerable children." His Majesty adding, "It's testament to the people's generosity, compassion and community spirit. Indeed, that spirit driving the highest donating telethon in the world after a mammoth fundraising effort just last weekend, featuring some of Australia's most famous faces now on the royal radar."
Coming up next in 7 News, breaking details on the driver who killed a police commissioner's son. Plus, Australia's multi-billion-dollar missile purchase. A royal statue vandalised in the heart of Sydney. And medical authorities reveal more about the death of One Direction star Liam Payne. Welcome back. More now on the royal tour, and it's already been a busy morning for the royal couple, with the King and Queen splitting up for different events. Paul Caddick is in Surrey Hills this morning. Paul, good morning. The King's been meeting Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander leaders.
Good morning. Yes, the King and Queen going their separate ways. The King heading to the National Centre for Indigenous Excellence in Redfern here in inner city Sydney, where he was greeted by Indigenous community leaders and had a smoking ceremony performed in front of him, then was taken for a walk through the centre. Quite an impressive ceremony underway there. A long traditional dance with music performed in front of the King. He even shared a hug with one man. The aim to meet with a range of Indigenous community representatives to learn all about the centre and all it does at that Centre of Excellence in Redfern this morning.
And Paul, the Queen has spent some time with the team from the food charity OzHarvest.
That's right. Queen Camilla, in fact, just left here just not long ago. She came here to the OzHarvest on Crown Street in Surrey Hills, where she met with the people who help that organisation feed hundreds of people in need every week. OzHarvest has been going for 20 years now, known around Australia, the people who rescue food to put to good use to help people in need. She met with chefs who work here, some of the thousands of volunteers who work with OzHarvest, then even put on the apron and helped work on lunch, which is just getting underway behind us now today. They feed some 500 people here a week at this OzHarvest restaurant. And a very touching moment that Queen Camilla was presented with a silver brooch, a teaspoon, to symbolise the sharing of good things. And then outside, Queen Camilla met with quite a crowd here actually who'd gathered. Some of them just accidentally came across the fact that a royal visit was happening here, so they've enjoyed some time. She stopped, had a long chat to the crowd before moving on to her next event, a library where she's been meeting with children taking part in the Queen's Commonwealth Essay Competition and presenting some awards. Certainly a busy morning so far.
Yes, and shining a light on some great charities. Paul Caddick joining us there live from Surrey Hills. Thanks, Paul. To breaking news now, the driver who struck and killed the South Australian Police Commissioner's son with his car has just received a suspended prison sentence. Charlie Stevens died from catastrophic brain injuries when he was hit at schoolies celebrations last year. A judge ordered Dhiren Randhawa's jail term to be suspended on the condition he is of good behaviour for 2 years. The 19-year-old has been banned from driving for a decade. A trial has begun at Brisbane Airport that could save international travellers from scrambling for a pen mid-flight. Aviation editor Blake Johnson explains.
The days of filling out these somewhat annoying incoming passenger cards are gradually coming to an end, although the rollout will be slow. A trial is underway here at Brisbane Airport on flights from New Zealand. 7 News had exclusive access to that first trial flight to see how it went. Passengers who are part of the trial say the online version is easy to fill out, contains similar questions to the paper ones we're already used to, but being able to do it up to 3 days before you fly means you're not scrounging around for a pen on board.
So easy, really quick and fast, and less paperwork. Hopefully it gets out of the airport faster.
It's simple, easier than finding a pen on the plane, so.
It's a lot easier. You've got everything on your phone, so it's easy to get the information rather than having to manually look through passport numbers and bits and pieces out of your bag and things. It's all in one place on your phone. Yep.
Once the online questionnaire has been completed, a QR code on your device allows you to skip longer queues at the airport. The trial is being run by Border Force, the Department of Agriculture, Fisheries and Forestry and Qantas. The link to access the Australia Travel Declaration is built into the Qantas app.
The great thing from our point of view is we can collect that data that's on those bits of paper up to 72 hours before a passenger travels.
20 million of these cards are printed every year. That is a lot of paper, and it slows down inspection officers who have to manually read each one as it's handed to them.
We can remove the white noise, we can remove the low risk passengers from the system and focus on those that are high risk.
We're one of the last developed countries to insist on paper arrivals cards, but with Brisbane hosting the Olympics in 8 years, the push is on to modernise a lot of our systems. Wellington joins the trial next week, and then other New Zealand cities with direct connections to Australia, but a wider rollout with more airlines, more countries and more airports requires further federal funding, and that's yet to be worked out.
A statue of Queen Victoria in Sydney CBD has been defaced with what's thought to be red paint. Police were called to the Queen Victoria building after reports the statue had been targeted by vandals. Maintenance staff were quickly called in to clean up the mess. Australia will spend $7 billion buying what's been described as the best air defence missiles in the world. The government announcing it will purchase the Standard Missile 2 and Standard Missile 6 from the United States. The rockets will be fitted to the Hobart-class destroyers and Hunter-class frigates.
We live in a missile age. We live in the greatest arms race in our region since 1945 with a high degree of strategic uncertainty.
The missiles will greatly improve the Navy's medium and long-range strike capability. One Direction star Liam Payne had a cocktail of drugs in his system when he fell to his death in Argentina. Joel Dry reports.
A toxicology report which has come out of the autopsy done on the body of Liam Payne has shown he was under the influence of a mixture of drugs at the time of his death. Among them, pink cocaine, which is a recreational drug, typically a mixture of many other drugs, including methamphetamine, ketamine, MDMA and others. Also mentioned in the toxicology report, traces of cocaine, benzodiazepine and crack. That is a fairly strong cocktail. It tells us he was very much inebriated at the time of his death and that possibly this death was an accident, though a suicide is very much also being investigated. Police are also looking into where and from whom he may have sourced those drugs, with charges likely if the identity of that person can be discovered. Jeff Payne, Liam's dad, is in Argentina. He wanted to see for himself the hotel where his son lost his life. He is awaiting the release of Liam's body, which will then be returned to the UK.
Let's go to finance now, and joining us today, James Tao from ING Bank. James, good morning. There have been sharp declines for local shares following losses on Wall Street.
Yeah, that's right. And good morning to you. It has been a tough start to the morning for the local market. The ASX 200, it's down about 92 points, or just over 1%. We, of course, were at or near all-time highs just yesterday. But today's losses have been rather broad. About 90% of the top 200 stocks currently trading in the red. Losses are really led by the likes of technology and also healthcare stocks, although the big banks and miners are also a weight down around that 1% mark. We have seen some small pockets of improvements, and it's mainly among defensive names. So gold is a little bit higher in overnight trade. That's supported our gold miners. Utilities also lifting, but the Aussie dollar has also come under a little bit of pressure as well. It's now buying about 66.5 US cents, Anne.
Thanks very much, James. Coming up next in 7 News, we'll have sport with Liam Tapper, including the Kangaroos set for enemy territory ahead of a face-off with New Zealand. Also, a contender takes a shock tumble days out from the $5 million Cox Plate.
Good morning. Chris Waller's Via Sistina was lucky to escape serious injury just days out from the $5 million Cox Plate. Jockey James McDonald tumbled off the horse early into track walk at Moonee Valley this morning, but pulled up fine. Waller will take it up to Saturday morning to ensure the mare is fit to race.
She doesn't have a hair missing. There's no blood, no skin off. I can't believe. Firstly, when I first saw it, I feared the worst, that something tragically might have gone wrong. And you take comfort from that hasn't happened.
If she races, she'll jump from barrier 4. Japanese stallion and favourite Prognosis starts from barrier 5. Steve Smith is adamant his teammates hated him having to open the batting for Australia and directly refuted claims by the chief selector that he asked to drop back down the order for this summer's Test series against powerhouse India.
The conversations I had with the other guys, they didn't like it at all. They wanted some security, I suppose, behind them, where I've done really well for a number of years, and I can understand that.
Smith made a 29-ball 3 for New South Wales against Victoria. It's his only red ball hit out before the first Test. The Kangaroos aren't dwelling on last year's brutal Pacific Championships defeat to New Zealand ahead of Saturday's rematch in Christchurch. The Aussies fly out tonight with the historic 30-0 defeat 12 months ago still fresh in the back of their minds.
I'm really excited for the challenge. Obviously disappointing last year, but in saying that, we can't change that. We can't dwell on that. It's a new team. We can just learn from it.
Sean Johnson comes out of retirement to replace the injured Jerome Hughes at halfback for the Kiwis. The Matildas will take to the field for the first time since the Paris Games disaster this Saturday morning in a friendly against Switzerland. The Aussies are determined to put a difficult Olympics campaign behind them and start again under interim boss Tom Sermanni.
It's all fresh starting from now. You know, I think it's a big learning curve, and with new staff, with new, in a new environment, again, anything can happen, and I think you have to take that as a positive and just run with it.
The Matildas face Switzerland in Zurich before taking on Germany next week. And Anne, it would be fantastic to see our Matildas back in the winner's circle again.
Paris? What Paris?
Exactly.
Thanks, Liam. Next in 7's Morning News, we'll have the national weather forecast for you. Let's take a look at the weather now right around the country. A front with humid, unstable air will bring showers to western New South Wales and Queensland. Moist onshore winds will bring showers to coastal Queensland. Clearer elsewhere under high pressure. Around the capital cities today, Brisbane partly cloudy, a top of 28 degrees. Sydney mostly sunny, a top of 23 degrees. Canberra partly cloudy, 28. Melbourne mostly sunny and 30 degrees. Hobart a shower or two, 25 today. Adelaide partly cloudy and 24. Perth a cloudy day, a top of 21. And for Darwin, a possible shower and 34 degrees. And that is 7's Morning News. I'm Anne Sanders. Now our complete live coverage of the Royal Tour continues with Michael Usher and Karina Carvalho.